I won't tell you what I've just done. Results will become evident. Oh, sodden car alarm. You're just in time for the latest instalment of fantasy and fiction from what is now called the Independent Office of Police Conduct. See, they've got a fancy new letterhead and everything, just like I said they would. And of course, they'll have had to get the sign writers in to change the sign on the building wall and everything. So that's just cost them a fortune. Received this morning. I wasn't expecting it back that quickly, obviously, so it's obviously a case of let's get it off our desk. They've decided not to uphold my complaint. That's a fucking surprise. I think I said they wouldn't about 6 videos ago. They never do, because their entire purpose is to protect the police. You'll love this one, guys, right? Press pause, go make a coffee, get a beer, whatever is your thing. Set yourself up. They're on about legal duties. Which is interesting because later on, I'll get to it, they say they're not a court, so they can only decide things on the balance of probabilities. That's when Chris Tatum Horseface from PSD called me a liar, basically. So they can't decide things as a court. It's the level below the justice that's dealt with in a court, which I didn't know existed until today. There's just one bit in this bit I want to cover of marked paragraphs. If the Crown Prosecution Service should be involved so that they can decide whether a crime might have been committed by someone working for the police. Well, the Crown Prosecution Service aren't allowed to talk to me. We established this a few months ago. This was when they told me they were dropping the case, which was going to court on the 9th of November, and then they went ahead with it anyway. And funnily enough, I wasn't there, so... Well, they went ahead with half the case. Before looking at the evidence, I should point out that the law restricts what I can do. I cannot consider the lawfulness of the actions, but can consider the conduct of the officers. Well, on the basis the officers were breaking the law, don't really see there's any fucking point to you. I mean, in examining the conduct of the officers, you must come to examine that they have broken the law. Also, look at the evidence with, this is the bit, with a lower standard of proof than in a court of law. Who said we had a 2-tier justice system in this country? Gets better. I've actually read this one, obviously. In a court, the level of proof is beyond reasonable doubt, whereas I have to use the balance of probabilities. In other words, they're backing up the police. That's what that means. This is a technical point about the service of formal notices on the officers. This is when they keep referring to it's not being passed up for special requirements. So if it's special requirements, the officers actually have to have a formal notice served on them. You would think that would happen anyway, but let's not let some real life get in the way. And this is a very interesting point. Now, there's 3 people, names mentioned in this letter that are all the same person. There's DC Harmer. This is PC Harman, who phoned me up. PC Harman liar confirmed. There's DC Harmer again. Now there is a point to this. There's DC Harman and DC Harman again. And at some point it does mention PC Harman, I'm sure it does. But I shall explain a little bit about that as we go on. So, DC Harmer, you see the point of this is DC Harmer doesn't exist. So, they're going to pretend that's a typo, that they've put it there by mistake. Whereas in reality, they've actually just named a completely different officer who may not even work for Cambridgeshire Police. So this DC Harmer person, who I've never heard of, had changed her story, having originally made a statement that you believed was untrue. Well, yes, love, you said I refused to go to a voluntary interview. I never did. DC Harmer again. You said that you had asked whether you would have to answer any questions if you participated in a voluntary interview. Did I? Don't remember saying that. You believed that DC Harmer had not answered the question. However, DC Harmer said that she had answered that question, and it was yourself who had not answered her question about whether you would come to the police station for a voluntary interview. He says, she says. He says, she says. Not very professional, is it? In fact, I was asking DC Harmer or PC Harman or DC Harman, whoever the fuck she is, clearly one of many identities, whether I was obliged to attend that interview. And she would not answer that question. But you have just said that she did. So you've been caught out lying already, really. The IO provided a transcript of the telephone call. Unfortunately, your responses to most of the conversation were inaudible. So you're going solely on DC Harmer, PC Harmer, DC Harman's word on what I said, because you just admitted that most of the conversation was inaudible. You believed that it was therefore impossible to make a decision on that topic, as your responses could not be heard. Looking at the evidence, it shows that DC Harmer responded to the question you posed. Well, yes, she did keep saying, we have to have an interview, we have to have an interview. I don't think that was a response to my question, really. Conversely, while your responses cannot be heard, it seems possible to infer from the transcript that you were not answering DC Harmer's question. See how they keep going around in circles? It's good, isn't it? It's called trying to reinforce a point. It's called trying to make me believe that I'm in the wrong, which is why you dropped the case. Obviously. DC Harmer said in her account that you did not provide an answer to that question, which is where I've written, well, I was asking her a question and she didn't fucking answer me. So fuck off. The transcript shows you had several opportunities to answer that question, but you did not appear to do so. So guilty. Guilty is charged. Yep. Whatever they say is true, guys. Just forget any fair trial. In fact, forget being charged, forget being arrested, and forget inaudible evidence which has obviously been tampered with being questioned at all by the police. DC Harmer explained why a voluntary interview is needed. Good. So, can I just point out here again, I know I have covered this before, sorry to be fucking boring, right? But it's a voluntary interview, voluntary. However much you insist on it, you cannot refuse to go to a voluntary interview because it's fucking voluntary. Again, the transcript contains enough evidence to infer that you choose not to reply to that question. Really? It's like the judge on the day the judge in the magistrate's court on the day they went ahead with half the case. Must have had hearing like a fucking owl. Because he or she decided as well that obviously I'd refuse to go to a voluntary interview. It's fucking voluntary, you can't refuse, alright. Responses as a refusal to participate in a voluntary interview. You were concerned that your arrest on March 24th was unlawful. Yes, it was. I've even got a notice on the door. If you don't like it, tough shit. I am unable to determine whether that is the case as a court. Only a court can do so. Keep saying that. Only courts can, like, prove people guilty. What's the fucking point of you then? We can see they're launching into this newly named Independent Police Complaints Commission with vigour. They're determined to carry on fucking lying. Right. You also, this is when it gets quite interesting. You also believed that you had not been arrested or charged prior to your arrest, and that there was no evidence of a course of conduct. However, when you made your original complaint, you did not challenge this point. You challenged several other aspects of the arrest, but not this one. So they're not going to investigate that. That makes it all right, because that wasn't in my original complaint. Oh, well, I complained about it now. What are you doing about it now? So now, finally, she gets the name right. You were also concerned that PC Dean had not issued with you a receipt when he took your mobile phone. In her account, PC Harmon indicated your phone was... The funny thing was, I always thought she was a DC until I got that evidence from the court, which the solicitor gave me. So I don't know if I've mixed that up or whether she's been demoted. Hopefully she's been demoted, because she's a dangerous bitch. Indicated that your phone was seized as was likely might contain evidence about the allegations made against you. See, it wasn't in my original complaint that I didn't get a receipt, so they can't investigate that either. Nah, they've just thrown that out. They've chucked it in the fucking bucket. So you don't have to be arrested, you don't have to be charged, you don't have to get a receipt for your property, because they do go on to say that, and no evidence of theirs can be questioned at all. This is shaping up to be a nice little dictatorship, isn't it? And the reason you don't have to have a receipt is because in the custody suite, they have no facility to issue you one. So no one has ever been in that custody suite has ever had a receipt for their belongings. Okay then. It was recorded in their little log though, so that's alright. Because they've logged that they've taken it off me, so... No fucking worries, mate. Have a can of Foster's, stick another shrimp on the barbie. So they can't issue a receipt in the custody suite. Not possible. She's back to DC Harmer again. You also said the officers carried out unlawful arrest and ignored the evidence you had to give. Yes, well, that's on Interview with Cambridge Police, which is on the channel. It's 52 minutes long, but I do beg with you to stay to the end, because they can be clearly heard to say they're not interested in any evidence of mine whatsoever. A couple of times, I think. I carefully considered the accounts of each officer and the body cam footage. It seems that you expected the officers to have come to carry out a voluntary interview. It is unclear why you thought that, as DC Harmon had tried to make arrangements for that interview, but you had not agreed. She gets really fucking tenuous in a minute. I don't know why I'm saying she. You'll love it when I show you the name at the end. No, I received a phone call, as I mentioned before, on the Friday afternoon of March the 24th of last year, to say that they wanted to investigate 25 years' worth of theft from the public purse, carried out by Huntingdonshire District Council employees. That was an unlogged call, as I found out about half an hour before the officers turned up. Rather foolishly, I opened the door to the lying, vile Nazi wankers, and they then proceeded to arrest me. What they're trying to make out here is, arrest me, that I should have known they were going to come and do this. This was about the voluntary interview that they wanted, because PC Harmon, DC Harmer, PC Harmer had phoned me up on the 6th of January, so I should have realised that's what it was about. It was the 24th of fucking March. It was almost 3 months later. I'm a busy guy. Do you really think I give a fuck about a phone call from a stupid fucking vile Nazi cow on the 6th of January? I've forgotten all about it until I got that bloody court's evidence. Please note, I make the distinction here between disagreeing, which you did not do. This is about going to the voluntary interview. And not agreeing, which is what happened in the phone call with DC Harmer. Allegedly, according to her responses. You heard it here first, guys. There is a difference between not agreeing and disagreeing. There's a difference. Really? Inevitably, where someone does not agree to such an interview, a voluntary interview cannot be carried out. Thank you very much. So you are all fucking liars. The next step is an arrest has to be considered. No, it doesn't. Especially when you're making shit up to protect your bent bailiff mates who don't decide not to turn up in court because they're chicken. Chris Green. Then it says, I was not forced into a voluntary interview. Well, yes, I was. Because if you go back to interview with Cambridgeshire Police, the DC Pinion, I think his name was, says if you don't understand your rights or whatever, we cannot continue. So that was a voluntary interview. Because I agreed to understand my rights. So I think you'll find I was forced into a voluntary interview. It's gone 11 o'clock, guys, and I've been up since 2:30. Don't judge. PCD and check you're the person and standard caution. I challenged the legality of it, yes, because it was illegal. So, in your case, PCD had been told that you had possibly been involved in harassment and that it was necessary to interview you to investigate that potential crime. It needed to be remembered that DC Harmon, so not DC Harmer and not PC Harmon, or Harmer, had tried to make arrangements to carry out that interview. They're still going on about it. Love them. It's about 6 fucking pages long, this is. Left him with no option but to arrest me. You then resisted being arrested. Yeah, because you just walked into my fucking hallway, you wankers. However, I claimed I was exercising my right to self-defence, which I did, because let's face it, you're murdering bastards. However, when an arrest is being made, there is no right to self-defence in the way you acted. What does that mean? The way I acted. So because of the way I acted, I'm not allowed to defend myself. Do you get the impression they're making this up as they go along? Made allegations involved the CPS. I am not empowered to consider their actions. Funny that. If you wish to pursue these points, you must contact the CPS direct. I'm not allowed to. They're not allowed to speak to me, love. Why do I keep calling you female? I don't know. Wait till you get to the end. Any complaints about the Chief Constable must be passed to the Police Crime Commissioner for Cambridgeshire Constabulary. Listen, guys, if you want Jason Ablewhite, who's been mentioned on this channel a few times, to very shortly be Prime Minister, then don't support me. And don't share my stuff. And don't tell anyone. Because I'll put a 90% bet on that's what's happening. He will almost certainly be an MP for this area. complained that the investigating officer had manufactured and distorted evidence and cleared DC Harmon on the basis of an inaudible phone call. Now, they cleared DC Harmon on the balance of probabilities. That's when they called me a liar. I noted that whilst you have made these allegations, you have not provided evidence to support them. Why can I fucking do that? You had the fucking recordings. So if you can't provide evidence which is impossible to provide, the IOPC will clear their police chums. There does not appear to be any indication that evidence was manufactured or distorted. If you've got the time, guys, it's not very long. It's only a few minutes. Listen to PZ Harmon, liar, confirmed. Let me know if you think that's been distorted. Oh yes, Inspector Paul Rogerson, who, as you all will remember, said I should have been aware I was being arrested because I got in the back of a marked police van with uniformed officers present. Later changed the other week by Horseface from PSD, who said that if they'd questioned me and they wanted to carry on a prosecution, they could. They didn't have to actually arrest or charge me at all anyway. This appears to be a new complaint. And so the legislation means that I cannot consider it here. It's funny that, isn't it? It's funny how the legislation always seems to fall in your favour. A bit like IPCC, isn't it? The Independent Parliamentary Standards, whatever, which was set up after the expenses scandal, and they monitor MPs' pay and decide how much they should get. And fucking funnily enough, they always decide that it's a pay rise. And of course, now that's being set up, the MPs can't argue against that. They must accept the findings of IPCC. That's all. I'll tell you what, guys, it doesn't matter if this laptop does things backwards or not, which it does. Look at that signature. Who's that then? Look at that printed name at the... Oh, wait, no, there isn't one. And the reason it's done like that is because we all know you're lying fucking bastards, and I invite you to sue me for slander if I am wrong, and I'll see you in court. Anyway, happy Saturday, guys. I'll see you all later.